No Victocrats allowed. Why? Because we've got a country to save. Join me, Larry Elder, tonight starting at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. And so Governor Rauner yesterday had his anti-Al Haig moment, Amy.
Yeah, it's like his tail was between his legs. He looked disheveled. He seems rattled, Dan, that Jeanne Ives is challenging him. I got to tell you, I watched his press conference on 3 different stations just to make sure I had this right. But listen up. He's not in charge, Dan. He's not.
Illinois would be on a great future. We'd have 200,000 more jobs in this state. We would have lower property taxes in this state. We would have term limits in this state if I was in charge. I am not in charge. I'm trying to get to be in charge.
I mean, that was one of those moments. Well, what? And this is what he said on Channel 5, that Mike Madigan's a mobster.
He has rigged the system. He controls it. It's a mafia protection racket. And until he's gone, we aren't going to fix Illinois. We're not going to have a good future.
Yeah, here's what he's trying to do.
Wow. What is this?
First of all, I mean, for a governor, especially a governor, by the way, the governor's office in Illinois, powerful office. Bruce Rauner, weak man. That's the disconnect. For a governor to say, I'm not in charge.
It's scary.
Is that what he campaigned on in 2014? I'll turn around Illinois if Mike Madigan lets me. I'll turn around Illinois with these qualifiers. Was that the campaign promise? The outsider, no-nonsense business guy who's going to take on these intractable problems and the established political order in Springfield the way that the run-of-the-mill politicians for the last several generations haven't been able to. Wasn't that his value proposition? So now, as somebody tweeted, his response running for re-election is, I'm not responsible for my failure. Boy, that's compelling leadership in these difficult times in Illinois.
And Jeanne Ives yesterday, who's running for governor, introduced herself, to the media. We know her here on this program, but a lot of people don't. And she held her own.
The decision came when after HB 40, that was the last straw. And colleagues and people from around the state started calling me and saying, we need somebody to stand up to him because Republicans hold Republicans accountable.
Yeah, and by the way, with respect to the governor, we wouldn't have a job-killing, capital-fleeing, massive structural tax increase without 15 House Republicans. House Republicans folding in with Madigan. So where's the leadership within your own party such that you keep Republicans in line, Governor? Or are you not going to be in charge until what? We suspend both parties and you're just the dictator of the state? I mean, the complications presented by the General Assembly, particularly the longest-serving speaker at the state level in U.S. history, are obvious. They were obvious going in, and they're obvious today. And yes, he should be held to account. And yes, he is a bulwark against a better Illinois. There's no question. But to be a crybaby bedwetter about it?
It's strange. I need a leader. I mean, he's in charge of the National Guard, Illinois National Guard. He's like, I'm not in charge here. I don't need to hear that from you. You were
surprised that the possibility that Madigan would be the House Speaker if you were elected governor. You didn't contemplate that when you ran? Obviously, that's not true because that question has been asked of Republican candidates for the better part of 3 decades. How are you going to deal with Madigan? How are you going to deal with Madigan? Now, I don't assume that Madigan will be there in 2018 because I think that Republicans have a chance to pick up the net 9 seats to depose him. I really do.
That'd be wonderful.
But the idea that you wouldn't contemplate it or that 4 years in, after promising to have the state income tax back down to 3% pre-Quinn and having it back up to Quinn levels with Republicans complicit and, frankly, Rauner complicit because he did a Pontius Pilate on that. I'm going to stay out of it. Whatever the General Assembly decides, then I'll make my decision. That's leadership. That's why we have what we have. My failure is not my fault. That's what Rauner is saying.
But as governor, Republican governor, he needs to get the Republican members in line. He needs to whip them into shape, and he did not do that.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. You inspired by Rauner's anti-Al Haig moment? Or is that fair for him to just blame Madigan and say, well, I can't do anything as long as he's there? Well, then why are you running for re-election?
Jeanne Ives pretty much called him a liar yesterday.
He is a traitor to our policies, and that's why I am challenging him.
He did. He said he would.
Yep.
He said he would veto HB 40. He signed it. Signed Sanctuary City, trans birth certificates, bailouts of public utilities like Exelon, increasing health care premiums to support Pat Quinn's Obamacare Medicaid expansion. It's not just on the moral issues. So he's a big government Republican. So again, do we want to hold people accountable for their policy choices and the leadership opportunity they fail to consummate? Or are we just going to say, he's got a big checkbook and he'll probably win. So since he'll probably win, I'll just kind of go along with the program, like we did with Mark Kirk last year when he won re-election. Oh, wait.
Well, speaking of the checkbook, real quick, Jeanne Ives, she did a great job because everybody said there's no way you can win. He is a millionaire. He'll put millions into his own campaign.
It doesn't matter how much money you have. In the end, you cannot buy back your trust after a betrayal. So Rauner is going to spend a lot of money paying high-priced consultants to try and tell people that he's somebody who he is not.
Well, that's it.
Awesome.
And isn't that what Rauner is doing?
Wow.
I want you to vote for who I am not who I am. Isn't that what Rauner's doing? Mm-hmm. I want you to vote for me because I'm not Madigan. Don't vote for me because I don't want to be judged on what I've done. I want to be judged on what Mike Madigan's done. Is that compelling? For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Jeanne Ives' running mate. Remember, you run as a ticket. Jeanne Ives' lieutenant governor candidate is a former state legislator from the Quad Cities. His name is Rich Morthland, and Rich joins us now. Rich, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. It's good to talk with you. Amy, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Yes, I can't wait to get to know you.
We heard about you from Jeanne when we had her on the show yesterday. Just a quick background, farmer, college educator, former state legislator, and also a locally elected official as well. So you've had a diverse and interesting professional and political history, and I wonder how you react to Governor Rauner's "I'm not in charge" comment.
Dan, that is so reflective of the way his administration has done everything. It's been an abdication, a dereliction of his constitutional duty. We're all constitutionalists here. We understand our balances of power, and he has a lot of it. And what he did through his statements to acknowledge that he does, or not to acknowledge, but acknowledge the fact that he won't even embrace the powers that he has under our Constitution. And he's abdicating it all to Michael Madigan. I know Mr. Madigan. I've served under him in his chamber. I understand he's a powerful man, but this isn't his state. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little agitated.
Oh,
I'm just so that you know, like any good Republican, I'm driving to work right now. I'm could teach classes this morning at our Galva Kiwani campus for Blackhawk College. But I'm telling you, it's just astonishing that this man is not doing his job, and he hasn't done it since he got in, and now he is once and for all said it's not my fault.
Well, what made you decide to join the ticket with Jeanne Ives?
Jeanne Ives. She is so incredible. She is an amazing leader. She is well-trained, well-versed. We all know the whole legacy of West Point. I mean, let's be honest. Jeanne Ives understands the meaning of the word retreat, but it was only a vocabulary word they made her study. I mean, come on. That woman is going to march forward. She knows how to create coalitions. She knows how to assert authority. Everything that Benedict Rauner has not done. And she's going to do it, and I am just absolutely honored that she has chosen to place me on the ticket.
Give us a little bit of on-the-ground perspective as a downstater, somebody from the Quad Cities, somebody right next to Iowa there, a border community, a border region. What the attitude of Republicans in your neck of the woods and as you travel around the state, particularly downstate, what the attitudes you hear about Governor Rauner from Republicans?
Well, you're right, Dan. I do live in a border area. You know, I used to say when I was running for my state rep district, the biggest problem with my district is it has 5 bridges out and people are using them. And what I hear from people as I go around the state and as I'm going to continue to go around more and more of the state, because obviously Jeanne chose me in part because I am neither from Cook nor the Collars to reflect the geography of the state of Illinois and the views of the state of Illinois. It's betrayal that we hear day in, day out, and everyone has their own straw that broke their camel's back of support. And they've turned away, and they have turned away irreparably. When Jeanne says, we know that we have the polling data that says he can't win if he were renominated, she's not kidding, and we hear it every day on the ground.
So when are you going to come to Chicago and introduce yourself? When's your coming out party?
It would be wonderful, wonderful. I'd love to come up to the city. We were there obviously last weekend for various events, including Farm Bureau. It's always fun to go to the Farm Bureau convention because I'm a lifelong member. And when I was first a legislator, the Farm Bureau had a program. They've since abandoned it because it doesn't work on Chicago Democrats. They had a program where they would adopt legislators. And I remember walking away from the event where they did adoptions with a bunch of Chicago Democrats. And they said, Rich, did the Farm Bureau adopt you? And I said, kind of hard to adopt myself.
Yeah, right. Well, and so that perspective, too, I mean, sometimes we forget north of I-80 that agribusiness is the number one business sector in Illinois. Obviously, you've got John Deere in your neck of the woods and Caterpillar in Peoria. And thousands of family farmers across the state. And there's this stat that I love. You correct me if I'm wrong on this, but every Illinois farmer feeds 52 families. Mm-hmm. Just to give you kind of the impact, both in terms of economics at the macro level, but also at the micro level in terms of feeding people the world over.
Great job with numbers as usual, Dan. But we don't just feed people; we also provide. We provide all sorts of, it's food, fabric, fuel. We do on Illinois agriculture, and now with the advancements, amazing because soybean acres nationally are about to exceed corn acres because the soybean is such a versatile plant that we can do so much with it. But Illinois is the breadbasket of America, and agriculture, you're right. If I were headed to our Moline campus, it's next door, not by accident, to the world headquarters of John Deere, and that's something I never take for granted when I'm doing my job of educating Illinois young people. By the way, don't forget, I'm a community college professor, and like about half of all community college professors, I've had real jobs.
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
And my full-time teaching, I'm going to get in trouble for this one. My full-time teaching job really isn't among them. I love it, but it's not the real jobs that I've done. And I've just, when you're raised on a farm, when you're a farm kid, it makes something out of you that can never be removed. And it's just a real honor that Jeanne sought that out in a running mate.
All right. He is Rich Morthland, former state legislator from the Quad Cities area, as you heard, farmer, community college professor, and running mate to State Representative Jeanne Ives. They are the ticket challenging Governor Rauner and Evelyn Sanguinetti in the Republican primary for governor. Rich, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, folks.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen.